Oh, there we go. Well, before I get too deep into today's topic, I want to introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. My name's Ervin, and I'm one of the founders of AquaLocate. And today, you're on our Tuesday live with AquaLocate here in Texas. We've been doing this we've been helping people either find a location for their next well or solve their existing well water problems for over 25 years. And we would love to help you. So first thing I'd like you to do is, if you're watching this either live or at a later date, please share this video with anybody you know who might need some help, some advice, some direction. We would love to help them or help you. Don't hesitate to reach out to us, message us, comment in this video if you're watching live. Again, we'd really like to help you. And one more thing, preempt before this live talk about mud drilling gone wrong. I want to give you some advice. You didn't ask for it, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. So one thing that I would caution you as you look at buying property, either whether it has an existing well or will need a water well, or because of the price of water in your area, you're not willing to use the rural water that's available. You want to have your own water source. Do some research. If you don't know how to do it, contact us. We would love to do it. Be a little bit careful about what I would classify as consensus research. Some people call it AI. Be careful about using AI to do your research for you, because it gives you a consensus, kind of a broad view. It doesn't give you the detail. And there's a lot of information that can be found when somebody with some experience looks at existing bore logs or well logs, well reports. The story of depth and yield doesn't tell you everything you need to know. So, even if you do that research first, I recommend it. Make sure you contact somebody with some experience that can help you make some very informed decisions. Because if you invest in a piece of property, let's say it's only $100,000, still a lot of money. And then you end up finding out that the water resources, the groundwater resources in the area aren't very good. You now own a piece of property that could really become kind of a bit of a money pit when it comes to finding a correct water source. And to be honest with you, the smaller the property, the harder it is, because aquifers, while they do vary over a small area, they don't vary very much, a considerable amount. There's not a lot of variance. So if you buy a 5-acre piece of property for, say, $100,000, you don't have really a lot of options. And really, the aquifer is not going to change a lot across that 5 acres. It'll change some. And in some areas, it changes a lot, but really rarely. Most of the time, it's not this big change. So before you fall in love with a piece of property, before you put money on the property, do your research. If you don't know how to do it, or if you've done it and you're still not sure, contact us. We would love to help you complete the research and see what we can do to help you make as an informed decision as possible about buying a piece of property, especially one that needs a water source. It really needs a water source. Anyway, so today's topic, real world experience that we just had last week. Actually, the property owner, this is in East Texas, we'll say not far from Paris, Texas. And he contacted me a couple weeks ago and was in a bit of a panic because he invested over $1 million in a really cool piece of property. I was able to see it last week. A really nice piece of property. And it's his dream. Like, he wants to build this duck hunting property. So he's built a duck pond, no water in it yet, because he needs some groundwater to fill it. And he's going to build a bass pond. And it's just going to be a place that he can share with friends and maybe invite people out for profit. I don't know. But he needs water. So he did a little bit of research. He got some advice. And unfortunately, what he ended up doing is hiring a drilling contractor that, honestly, I'm not 100% sure this drilling contractor is licensed. And if he is, maybe they need to, the state may need to revisit his licensing, because when he told me what happened just over the phone, he was a bit panicked. He was a little worried about stuff, because they told him they drilled a 550-foot well, which is about 150 feet deeper than most of the wells in the area, maybe a little bit more than that. In fact, most of the wells in the area are in the high 200s to upper 300s with a few exceptions, a few outliers. So we kind of throw the outliers out there. If it's really shallow, we throw that out. If it's really deep, we kind of throw that out and we look at the general probability of depth. And most of the wells that are kind of in the area of that we could find were probably between 300 and 400 feet at the most. And I was actually really surprised when he told me that they had drilled this dry well. And as I've said before in this video, really a dried well, in most cases, a dry well is probably a failed well. It's either a badly designed well, a badly drilled well, or a combination of those things. Anyway, so 550 feet, supposedly no water, panicked. He needs to get water in his duck pond before the season starts. He wants to take advantage of it and get going. And like I told him when I did the research, I said, honestly, if you wouldn't have told me that you had drilled a dry well, I would have said, just go drill a well, because he's right in the middle of an aquifer. He's actually in a good position. The state has mapped an aquifer. There's consistency across the area. There's lots of wells drilled in the general area, not immediately next to his property that I could find, but close enough to be sure that there is an aquifer there, and he just needs to find a competent driller. Unfortunately, he may have found probably one of the worst drillers in his area. And we scheduled, he decided he really needed some help in spite of my suggestion that he probably just needs to find a good driller. And we go out to the property, we drive onto the property, go to the back of the property. It's again, 100 acres. So we drive down a long road. I get to meet the neighbor who's helping the property owner out. And we started talking about the well that was drilled. And I said, well, where is it? And he goes, oh, you drove past the drill rig. And I went, I was confused because I didn't see one. I was unsure of where this drill rig was, because typically a good mud rotary drill rig or a good air rotary drill rig or any number of different types, they're big. They're the size of a semi or pretty close to the size of a semi. They're like 60 feet long or so. They're big. And I didn't drive it by anything like that. I drove by some what I thought was farm equipment, but that was it. Anyway, he took me back to it and he showed me this drill rig, and it was this little tiny 20-foot trailer, maybe at the most. And it was just sitting there at the borehole with the drill stem still in the borehole, which shouldn't be. If they're using mud rotary, let me just tell you, if they're using mud rotary, it's because the formation is unstable, which means that if it's left alone too long while it's not being drilled, it could collapse on itself because it's unstable. That's what the mud is actually designed to stabilize the formation long enough for them to set casing, set gravel or filter pack in there, and then develop the well. That's what they've got to do. All those things have to happen pretty quick. You can't just sit there and leave the hole open. This hole had been open for 2 weeks. Drill stem had been left at about 300 feet for about 2 weeks. And it was just sitting there. In fact, it was been there long enough. The mud pits that hold the mud and the stuff that they use to drill the well were dry. They were cracked. The bentonite that was in the mud pits was cracked. It had been there so long. And in this conversation, the neighbor said, well, I was here when they were drilling, and when they got to around 400 feet or just above 400 feet, and I saw this big gush of fresh water come out, and then a whole bunch of sand come out with that fresh water. And they were like, oh, there's water. Well, then the driller says to him, again, this is above 400 feet, which is where I think the water should be. And the driller says, oh, it's not going to be good enough. It's too fine a sand. It's not going to produce enough water. We're going to keep going. And then he drills another 150 feet, says there's no water, says it's not producible, which he can't say, by the way. With a mud rotary drill rig, you cannot determine that until you've cased the well, screened the well, filter packed the well, developed the well, undid the damage, and then did a pump test or some sort of airlift test or something like that. That's when you can give some rough estimate of yield. But you can't say it's dry or failed or productive or anything until you've taken all those steps in place, because mud rotary kind of blinds the drilling contractor. And it's a good drilling system. You've just got to know how to do it. And clearly, based on the drill rig and the fact that they just left it sitting there for 2 weeks at that time, it just was kind of sketchy. I gotta be honest with you. It was like, I was like, what the heck? Anyway, so we did the testing. You could see right away. I could see right away that there was water. I wasn't surprised because I already did the research, and the research shows there is water here. There's an aquifer here. There was no such shock to me. Then I start getting messages a couple days later on a Sunday, and I typically don't work on Sunday, so I didn't respond to the messages. But he sent me a couple photos. We'll try to share these at a later date in this video, and so you could kind of see some of the pictures. They won't tell the whole story, but give you some idea of what I'm talking about. Anyway, the driller comes out to try to fix the problem. So what he does is he pulls all the drill stem out, and then he sets casing into the well down to 300 feet where it stopped. Okay. So remember, this well was drilled at 550 feet. They set casing, and apparently the casing stopped around 300 feet. So they have this plastic pipe in the hole, and then they drop an air line down into that well, or into the casing they set, and start blowing high pressure air in there to airlift it or jet it or whatever they were. I don't know. Really, honestly, I don't know what they're trying to do, because they didn't, as far as I know, they didn't set gravel in the well. So that casing just sitting there, kind of sitting on top of a plug or a bridge or something like that. Anyway, they started blowing air, and then all of a sudden the casing just falls, disappears into the borehole, and falls about another 250 feet. And so they don't even know where the casing is. Now they've lost the casing they set in there. They can't do anything to the well. There is mud everywhere. If you see one of the pictures, you'll see the video that I'm going to put up here later on. I'll add to this stream. The guy is covered in mud. I mean, it was kind of comical and sad all at the same time. So do you think he fixed the problem? Do you think the driller fixed the problem? Take a guess. No, he didn't fix it. He spent hours on a Sunday trying to kind of fix the problem he created, this drilling contractor. He could not fix it. He lost 300 feet of casing or something like that, and just ended up packing up at the end of the day and left and put a board on top of the hole, which, by the way, is against state law. You can't do that. If you drill a hole and the hole's not productive for whatever reason, whether it's because you did something wrong or because there's no water there, maybe there isn't. In this case, it's not true. You've got to abandon it properly. He didn't. He threw a piece of a board on there. And here's an even sadder part: is the property owner had already paid this guy. So this guy's going to walk away with well over $10,000, and the property owner's got a hole in the ground with a piece of wood on top of it, and has to now drill one, maybe two more wells to solve his existing problem. That's part of what we're doing. So we've been consulting with him and trying to help this issue. It is really, honestly disturbing. Like, you guys have heard me enough. I'm kind of an unfan of a lot of the processes that the drillers use or don't use. I wrote a book on it, wrote a book on the topic. This little cool book right here, Water Well Drilling. This is just a detailed short read about the proper steps in well drilling. So that's how frustrated I was. I decided to put all the information that I've learned and read over the last 25 years in a book. And in spite of that and information I give people all the time, we still have most drillers, and I'm probably maybe being a little hyperbolic, I would say 98, 99% of drillers don't even come close to following even one or two of those steps, to be honest with you, of the 10. And this drilling contractor was probably arguably the worst of the worst that I've ever seen. I've seen my share of mediocre drilling contractors or processes, good people, bad processes. Anyway, so we're going to help this property solve this problem. But again, to recap, do your research and don't just take, again, the consensus generator or the AI tool's word for, oh, it's going to be fine, because most of the time it doesn't tell the whole story. Once you've done some basic research, whether it's using AI or whatever, that's fine with me. But contact us or contact somebody like us and have them look at the well reports themselves and give you their experience of what these well reports say. You'd be shocked at how much information a professional with some experience can glean from a water well report. Somebody that's got some good experience in this industry. It would be really valuable. And I hate to say it, you might want to not completely put all your faith in the people that get paid by the foot. I think you know what I'm saying. Anyway, contact an independent third party. We would love to help you. Listen, one of the things I want to remind you guys is I'm available for speaking engagements. If you know anybody, or if you're out there in the corporate world, a real estate agent, a real estate company, and you want your agents to know more than the agents next door about water wells, proper water well drilling, things like that, I would love to come talk to you guys and share this information. I'll bring some copies of the book. And you can provide those to your clients. It's a really good resource. Go to aqualocate.com to learn more about us, our services, our equipment. We do provide the equipment to entrepreneurs and people that are looking to help other people. We would love to share that information with you and see how you can get involved with this if that's what your thing is. Also, if you're in the oil industry, the petrolocate.com site will give you information about oil drilling and or oil exploration and how we can help sort of fine tune any exploration you've already had done. We provide training support to existing operators and new operators. We're actually going to be training somebody early September from Montana, and then we'll be doing some more training for somebody in the Philippines here pretty quick, and I think Kenya here pretty soon too. So if you want to get on that list of people that are getting trained that are going to be able to use this equipment, please contact us, 800-251-2920. We'd really, really love to talk to you guys. Hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for giving me time to bend your ear. If you guys need help, let us know. Share this video, like this video, put on the notifications for it, and we would that way you won't miss content that we put out there. Go to our Facebook page. You'll find us on Facebook. Again, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful night. See you soon. I'll have another good story for you next week, probably. All right. Cheers. Take care.